Ever heard of tractors so risky they sent shivers down every farmer's spine? Today, we're uncovering the 10 most dangerous tractors you won't believe exist, throwing it back to the 1900s when these iron beasts roamed America's fields. Buckle up, this nostalgic journey is about to take off. Number 10. Fordson Model F. When Henry Ford introduced the Fordson Model F in 1917, it revolutionized small-scale farming. Built in Dearborn, Michigan, and later in Cork, Ireland, the Model F was among the first lightweight, mass-produced tractors made to bring mechanized power to family farms. Equipped with a 4-cylinder engine delivering about 20 horsepower, it promised a future where horses could finally retire from the fields. Ford's ingenious manufacturing approach meant these machines were affordable, a game changer at a time when bigger brands commanded steep prices. Yet with all its promise, the Fordson Model F quickly became infamous for its dangerous tendency to flip backward. Farmers, excited about hitching up plows or hefty loads, often attached implements to the tractor too high on the rear axle. Without a proper hitch point, the front end could suddenly rear up. This phenomenon was so notorious that early owners described it as the backflip hazard. Worse, there was no rollover protection or seat belts. Safety standards were still decades away. Historically, the Model F left an undeniable mark on American agriculture. By the mid-1920s, Fordson had grabbed over 70% of the U.S. tractor market, an impressive feat, but that widespread adoption also meant more folks experienced its perils. Today, collectors revere the Model F for its pioneering status, though they also acknowledge its shortfalls in design and safety. Its success paved the way for countless innovations that followed, spurring companies to refine ergonomics and lower the tractor's center of gravity. Despite its quirks and dangers, the Fordson Model F remains a symbol of early 20th century progress, living proof that big leaps in technology often come with a steep learning curve, especially when horsepower meets human error. Number 9. Farmall Regular. International Harvester introduced the Farmall Regular in 1924, and it instantly changed how farmers approached row crop work. Nicknamed the tractor that industrialized agriculture, it arrived with a unique tricycle configuration that allowed cultivators to maneuver between rows with ease. At around 20 horsepower, it might sound modest by modern standards, but at the time, this was a robust machine that upped efficiency significantly compared to horse-drawn plows. However, the same narrow front-end design that made the Regular so agile also contributed to its precarious balance. On uneven ground or sharp turns, the tractor could tip over with startling speed. Add to that the complete absence of rollover protection, still a relatively unknown concept in the mid-1920s, and you had a perfect recipe for accidents. Early Farmall marketing claimed it was simple to drive, but that simplicity didn't account for inclines, turning angles, and sudden obstacles in the field. Culturally, the Farmall Regular became a household name. Its bright red paint and distinctive silhouette are still iconic images in tractor history. Many families back then traded in their horses for these nimble machines, and production soared as farmers spread the word about how much time they saved. Yet talk of dangerous rollovers also spread, prompting some owners to add makeshift weights or wider rear wheel settings to increase stability. While modern eyes see the Farmall Regular as a beloved collectible, it's important to recall the warnings old-timers passed down. Keep it steady or she'll buck you. That dual reputation, revolutionary yet risky, underscores how innovative engineering can sometimes outpace practical safety measures. Ultimately, the Farmall Regular's legacy is equal parts triumph and cautionary tale, reminding us that cutting-edge breakthroughs must evolve alongside proper safety standards to truly stand the test of time. Before we move on to the next one in the list, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you love these tractors and you're enjoying this content so far, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. Thanks to all of you who do. Number 8. JIK Steam Traction Engine. Before gasoline-powered tractors dominated the fields, steam traction engines rumbled across the plains, and few were more prominent than those built by J.I. Case. Founded in 1842 in Racine, Wisconsin, Case became one of the leading manufacturers of agricultural equipment. By the early 1900s, their steam traction engines were recognized as marvels of modern farming. Using powerful boilers to drive massive rear wheels across farmland. But here's where dangerous enters the picture. Steam engines relied on pressurized boilers that demanded consistent maintenance and precise monitoring. If a valve malfunctioned or a boiler overheated, the result could be an explosive release of steam, sometimes catastrophic enough to destroy equipment and injure anyone nearby. Period newspapers recount horror stories of boiler explosions on farms, often caused by neglected safety checks or low water levels. This was no mild mishap. Bursting boilers could tear through barn walls. Despite these hazards, JIK steam engines had a huge impact on early 20th century agriculture. They were used not only for plowing and threshing, but also for powering sawmills, providing a versatile energy source before rural electrification. And for many farming communities, a Case steam tractor symbolized progress, putting them on the cutting edge of technology. Even though it demanded skill and caution, the raw power of steam was too enticing to ignore. Today, collectors and steam enthusiasts restore these giants as a nod to the dawn of mechanized farming. They appear at antique machinery shows, chugging with their deep, rhythmic exhaust. Folks gather around, marveling at the craftsmanship while remembering just how risky it was to operate these behemoths. If you've ever seen a vintage photograph of a proud crew posing by a steaming Case engine, know that behind those smiles lay a healthy respect for the raw and sometimes unforgiving force of steam power. Number 7. Avery Undermounted Steam Tractor. While J.I. Case was a giant in steam technology, Avery introduced an innovative design that turned heads and sometimes turned hearts cold with fear. The Avery Undermounted Steam Tractor mounted the boiler beneath the frame rather than above it, aiming to improve balance and forward visibility. At first glance, this design looked like the next logical leap in steam propulsion for farms in the early 1900s. By lowering the boiler, Avery hoped to reduce top heaviness and make steering more manageable. However, steam power inherently carried serious safety risks, and Avery's design was no exception. Operators still had to keep a watchful eye on boiler pressure, water levels, and the constant threat of leaks. The undermounted design, while theoretically more stable, sometimes complicated routine maintenance. Engineers of the period noted that without a clear overhead view of the boiler, minor issues could go unnoticed until they escalated. A sudden pop or hiss could mean anything from a leaky valve to a full-blown danger scenario. Despite these pitfalls, Avery steam tractors played a pivotal role in states like Kansas, Nebraska, and the Dakotas, where vast expanses of prairie rewarded powerful machinery. The tractors helped farmers expand acreage, cultivate land faster, and produce larger harvests. Many also found use in custom threshing crews that traveled from farm to farm during busy seasons. Today, the Avery Undermounted Steam Tractor is something of a cult classic among antique equipment aficionados. It stands as a testament to the relentless spirit of innovation that characterized early American farming, where steam reigned supreme. But it also underscores the era's precarious balance between ambition and safety. One misstep or overlooked gauge, and this mechanical marvel could become a dangerous monster on wheels. Number 6. Rumley Oil Pull. Long before modern diesel engines became standard fare, the Rumley Oil Pull was blazing trails with its kerosene-guzzling power plant. Manufactured by the Advanced Rumley Company in LaPorte, Indiana, the first oil pull came out around 1910, promising farmers a smoother, more cost-effective alternative to steam. Instead of wrestling with boiler pressures, operators fueled up with a range of low-grade oils. This gave the oil pull a rugged, pioneering edge in the era of transitional technologies. But pioneering tech often comes with pitfalls. Despite ditching steam, the oil pull still featured exposed moving parts and a high center of gravity. Mechanically, it was more reliable than many steam tractors, no boiler explosions, but safety rails, rollover protection, and operator shields were practically non-existent. Add an unpredictable ignition system that sometimes required manual adjustments under the hood, and you had a recipe for burns or bruises if you weren't careful. At trade shows of the era, demonstrations often included disclaimers warning spectators to keep a safe distance. Culturally, the Rumley Oil Pull's significance can't be overstated. It helped shift American agriculture away from steam power, speeding up the adoption of internal combustion engines. Over time, farmers embraced kerosene and gasoline as more convenient and safer fuels, paving the way for modern tractor designs. Rumley even marketed these machines with bold ads claiming lower operating costs compared to steam or horsepower. And in many ways, they were right, just not when it came to operator comfort or safety accessories. Today, the Rumley Oil Pull is beloved among antique tractor collectors. Enthusiasts bring them to parades, fairs, and shows, letting bystanders witness a crucial milestone in farming innovation. Still, the old-timer's caution rings true. Keep your hands clear and mind your footing. For all its mechanical brilliance, the oil pull remained a hulking beast demanding respect and constant vigilance, reminding us that progress and risk often went hand in hand in the early 1900s. Number 5. International Harvester Titan 1020. International Harvester made waves in 1915 with the Titan 1020, a tractor that marked a transitional phase from steam to internal combustion. Advertised to deliver between 10 horsepower at the drawbar and 20 horsepower at the belt pulley, the Titan was aimed squarely at medium-sized farms. It burned kerosene, cheaper and more readily available than gasoline at the time, and featured a big, boxy design that set it apart from smaller competitors. However, the Titan's chunkiness didn't guarantee stability. In fact, the high-riding platform and bulky engine components could become a hazard on uneven terrain. Early models had rudimentary braking systems, sometimes relying on friction bands that wore down quickly. Operators had to constantly judge slopes and speed to avoid runaway scenarios, particularly when going downhill with a loaded wagon. And while it didn't threaten to explode like a steam engine, the Titan's open gear wheels and belts posed real entanglement risks if clothing or limbs got too close. From a historical standpoint, the Titan 1020 played an important role in popularizing kerosene-based engines in North America. Farmers were thrilled to say goodbye to the fuss of firing up a steam boiler each morning. Additionally, the Titan's belt pulley expanded its usefulness to stationary tasks like grinding feed or running a small sawmill. This multifunctionality boosted its reputation for being a workhorse that could tackle nearly anything, within reason. Culturally, the Titan was a point of pride for International Harvester, which was locked in fierce competition with companies like John Deere and Ford. The bragging rights around the Titan's torque and endurance helped shape the brand's identity for decades. Of course, talk to anyone who has operated one, and you'll hear a mix of admiration for its raw muscle and cautionary tales about its towering profile. As with many tractors from that era, you had to keep your wits about you or risk becoming another cautionary statistic. Number 4. Waterloo Boy. John Deere's Waterloo Boy, first manufactured under the Waterloo Gasoline Engine Company name in 1914, ranks among the true milestones in tractor development. After John Deere acquired Waterloo Gasoline in 1918, this machine became the backbone that propelled Deere into the tractor business full force. Sporting a two-cylinder engine that famously produced a deep, rhythmic putt-putt, it quickly won over farmers looking to replace horse-drawn equipment. But as charming as that putt-putt might be, early Waterloo Boys lacked many of the safety features we consider essential today. The open crankshaft and flywheel were ripe for mishaps if an operator's foot slipped. And while it was relatively stable on flat ground, the machine's high, narrow wheels made hillside operations precarious. Owners often improvised by adding wheel weights or adjusting track width, though none of these modifications were standardized at the factory level. Historically, the Waterloo Boy did more than just plow fields. It cemented John Deere's place in tractor lore. When you see the modern green and yellow Deere brand, you can trace that lineage directly back to this early, somewhat rough-around-the-edges contraption. In ads from the 1910s and 1920s, the Waterloo Boy was billed as a simpler alternative to steam. Start it up, let it rumble, and get to work without waiting on water or pressure gauges. Culturally, this tractor became an icon partly because of its reliability relative to some competitors. Even so, many first-time operators were startled by how quickly accidents could happen. The manual ignition timing, for instance, required a bit of finesse, Turn it too far and you risked backfiring or engine damage. Climb aboard an old Waterloo boy today and you'll experience a direct seat-of-the-pants connection to the farmland of yesteryear. Just remember, there's no roll bar or seatbelt to save you if you forget you're driving a century-old engineering marvel. Number 3. Alice Chalmers Model U. Alice Chalmers introduced the Model U in 1929 as an answer to the growing demand for heavier-duty tractors. Initially built with a 4-cylinder engine generating around 22 horsepower, the Model U aimed to replace smaller farm implements that simply couldn't handle large-scale plowing or heavy loads. This machine also holds a quirky chapter in automotive history. An Alice Chalmers Model U, modified by Harry Merritt and Barney Oldfield, set a tractor speed record in 1933, hitting over 60 miles per hour, a feat both impressive and downright terrifying. But speed wasn't the only factor that made the Model U precarious. Its robust stature gave it a high center of gravity, which could lead to rollovers on uneven farmland. Like many tractors of its time, it lacked specialized safety features. The operator's station was exposed with little more than a metal seat separating driver from engine. Controlling a Model U on slopes or while towing a heavy load required constant vigilance. One ill-timed turn or unexpected rut could tip the machine faster than most would believe. The Model U did leave a significant footprint on American agriculture, helping Alice Chalmers expand its market share. The company's orange color scheme, introduced later, became synonymous with durability, and fans praised the U for its power-to-weight ratio. Many found it capable of pulling plows through stubborn Midwest clay without stalling. The tractor's success laid groundwork for future Alice Chalmers models like the WC and WD, which further refined design elements. Culturally, it also captured attention off the farm thanks to that speed record. People heard of a racing tractor roaring down a track at breakneck velocity, and it caught the national imagination. Of course, operating a tractor at high speed without modern brakes or rollover protection is the very definition of dangerous. Even at normal field velocities, the Model U was best handled by someone who understood its quirks and who knew better than to push the envelope too far. Number 2. John Deere Model D. John Deere's Model D first rolled onto the scene in 1923, becoming the company's longest-produced tractor model, manufactured all the way until 1953. Often hailed as old reliable, it packed a 2-cylinder engine that produced up to 27 horsepower on the drawbar and 31 on the belt. This made it a hit among medium to large farm owners needing enough muscle to tackle big jobs like breaking tough sod in the American Midwest and Canadian prairies. Yet that power came at a price. The Model D was heavy, tipping the scales at over 4,000 pounds. That heft, combined with tall steel or rubber wheels, depending on the era, posed a rollover threat on sloping terrain. Moreover, early models featured an exposed belt pulley at the side, which could snag clothing or limbs if operators got too close. And just like many tractors from its day, the Model D lacked any form of rollover protection or seatbelts, standard safety features we take for granted now. Historically, the Model D is monumental. It solidified John Deere's reputation for sturdy, dependable farm machinery during a period when the company was still proving its worth in the tractor arena. The design underwent several iterations over 3 decades, reflecting changes in both engineering and agricultural practice. By the time production ceased in 1953, the Model D had become a legend, symbolizing the dawn of mechanized farming across vast swaths of North America. Nostalgically speaking, hearing that 2-cylinder pop-pop is enough to bring tears to an old farmer's eyes. The Model D was a workhorse that plowed, harrowed, and harvested through the Great Depression, Dust Bowl, and World War II. But behind that legacy of resilience lies a cautionary note. If you took this machine's might for granted, you might find yourself flipped, pinned, or injured by rapidly spinning gears. In the end, the Model D's greatness was matched only by the respect it demanded from anyone at the wheel. Number 1. Ford N-Series. Arguably the most famous tractor lineup in American history, the Ford N-Series, spanning models 9N, 2N, and 8N, put modern farming within reach of the average family. Launched in 1939, these models were smaller, more affordable, and easier to maintain than many competitors. Powered by a 4-cylinder engine, around 20 horsepower, the N-Series tractors soared in popularity. By the late 1940s, the 8N became the best-selling individual tractor model of all time. But popularity doesn't always equate to safety. Like the earlier Fordson, N-Series tractors had a tendency to rear up if heavy loads were improperly hitched. Rear-wheel lift or rollover accidents became so common that Ford eventually recommended new hitching procedures in manuals. Yet thousands were already in use, and not everyone followed the guidelines. Furthermore, no rollover protection structure, ROPS, or seatbelts were included, leaving the operator vulnerable in the event of a flip. Culturally, the N-Series changed the face of American agriculture. The 9N pioneered the 3-point hitch system co-developed with Harry Ferguson, which revolutionized how implements attached and greatly improved efficiency. The subsequent 2N and 8N further refined the formula, embedding the N-Series into the nostalgic heart of rural America. Even today, it's not unusual to find a running 8N in a barn, still used for mowing or light work, testament to the tractor's robust design. That said, seasoned farmers will caution newbies, never underestimate an N's ability to kick. These machines forged an undeniable legacy, helping millions transition from horse-drawn plows to modern mechanization. Yet they also taught important lessons in tractor safety, spurring future designs to incorporate safer hitch points and eventually roll bars and seat belts. Perhaps more than any other tractor on this list, the Ford N-Series exemplifies how a beloved workhorse can also be a lurking danger, if respect for its power isn't front and center. To be honest, thanks for joining us on this nostalgic trip through tractors that push the limits of power and caution. Whether you grew up hearing stories of flipovers in the field or remember seeing these brutes at state fairs, they've shaped American farming more than we realize. Hope you found this video helpful in understanding the evolution of tractor design and safety. Got more vintage machines you'd like to see highlighted? Drop a comment below. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. We'd love to have you along for more historical hauls.